act all and vote. AP and you, AP and you, AP and AP and AP and you, rise Guyana shine. Together we build, now is the time. With Aubrey strong and heart so true, we're rising up, it's me and you. Vote AP and you, for justice care, for every family everywhere, for jobs, for schools, for brighter days, for youth and elders, better ways. Who you voting for?
Is Mr. Aubrey C. Norton, leader of the People's National Congress Reform and presidential candidate for the Partnership for National Unity. Miss Also joining is Mr. Retta Fernandez, prime ministerial candidate for the Partnership for National Unity. Today's press statement will be read by the leader.
Good day. The lives of Guyanese will improve in the APNU coalition first 100 days in office. In our first 100 days in office, the APNU coalition government will urgently begin the task of raising the living standards of all Guyanese. In other words, the task of investing in people and putting the country's oil wealth directly into the people's hands will begin. In addition, in our first 100 days, we intend to implement initial measures to enhance social justice and good governance in our country. On assuming office, our top priority will be to pass a supplementary budget. With that budget, we intend to, one, make the first cash transfer to adults of 100,000. Two, raise the tax-free threshold to 400,000 per month to benefit over 225,000 workers and the self-employed. Three, increase wages of public sector workers, teachers, nurses, and the discipline forces to 35%. Four, increase old age pension to $100,000 a month. Five, pay students in tertiary and technical institute a stipend of $50,000 per month. Six, implement urgent cost of living relief measures, such as 2 hot meals a day for school children and double public assistance and social assistance, such as school vouchers, family assistance, and disability allowances. Implement our sustainable agricultural program for every region. Significantly increase the stipend of tushaus, regional, local, and village councillors. In addition, in our first 100 days, the APNU coalition government will do the following. One, engage ExxonMobil on the Stabroek Block PSA with the aim of increasing benefits for Guyana. Two, amend the Natural Resource Fund Act to ensure that there are savings for future generations and for when oil prices are low. Three, release all government contracts on the oil and gas industry and other major projects. Four, restart public consultation on the 2006 Amerindian Act. Five, reform the procurement laws to facilitate a wider cross-section of Guyanese benefiting from contracts and ensuring greater accountability and transparency. 6. Set up a professional and independent petroleum commission. 7. Commence multi-stakeholder meetings on various national and community issues of concern to our society. 8. Ensure justice for the families of the 20 murder victims, Adriana Young, Ronaldo Peters, Keon Fajane, the Henry Boys, Harris Singh, and other victims. And 9. Ensure all persons who were deprived of property and suffered from PPP discrimination and victimization obtain redress. This will include those at Mocha, Arcadia. These are some of the measures we intend to implement in our first 100 days in government. By the end of our first term in 2030, we are confident that in line with our people-centered development strategy, we will reduce poverty significantly, guarantee each household a livable income, create a comprehensive social protection system, provide top-class social services, especially health care, build better communities, improve ethnic harmony and social cohesion, meet the UN Sustainable Development Goals, and generally lift the quality of life of all Guyanese. We make these pronouncements to the Guyanese people as a party that is committed to serving and respecting the people, and as a party that fully embraces the principle that the ultimate goal of development is not about merely building roads and bridges, but ensuring the well-being of all Guyanese people. I thank you.
Thank you. At this time, we will take questions on the press statement.
Could I go ahead? Spotlight Marshall, News Source.
Yes, you may.
Hi, Mr. Martin and Ms. Director of Finance. Good day. With regards to the re-engaging or engaging ExxonMobil on the Diaspora block agreement, I know a major issue of contention is that 2% royalty. What proposed, is that something that you will be addressing in those negotiations? Do you seek to increase that priority? And if yes, what do you think would be a reasonable ask with respect to the royalty and the $100,000 cash grant within the first days of entering office should you be elected? Is this going to be a one-off initiative?
Okay, I thought you were true.
Go ahead.
Let me start with the last one. We have already said that our cash grants wouldn't be one-off. We have already said that they will be predictable so that people can use it as collateral, etc., and so it would not be one-off. As it relates to the Exxon, we intend to engage Exxon on every aspect of the contract that we believe can be utilized to increase the benefit to the people of Guyana. I do not want to get into what percentage, etc., until we are in government and have the data at our disposal to make sensible, rational discussions. What I can say to you is that I have already engaged Guyanese in the diaspora who have experience in terms of dealing with multinational corporations, especially in the oil sector. And so there will be an advisory group that will help us as we move forward.
Mr. Norton, thank you, Shabal and Rari. So to follow up, already ExxonMobil, Guyana's president, Mr. Rutledge, has effectively ruled out any sort of renegotiation of the contract. How do you intend to break this barrier, which has already been put up by ExxonMobil? They have cited a projected investment of about $50 billion US, and it will be putting them in a difficult spot.
Well, I don't know what difficult spot we're talking. But all I would say to you is that the law provides for us to engage and make the changes, and we intend to address it based on the law. I think it is Article 24.1.
You're talking about the agreement.
Yes,
And in light of your intention to do so, to do so, what assurances can you give the oil sector investors, not only ExxonMobil, but those that might be thinking of getting into further exploration and eventual production, that their investments will be safe and guaranteed?
we have already guaranteed them that the investments will be safe. We believe that it was a good investment for Guyana, but that doesn't preclude the fact that more can be obtained for the people of Guyana, and we will pursue assiduously the objective of ensuring the Guyanese people benefit more from the oil and gas sector.
Thank you.
Questions on the first statement?
Questions on the first statement?
All right, I have a question here. I believe it's from Mr. Antonio Day. Mr. Norton, your party has been an advocate for youth development. What measures will be taken to address the university graduates who may be working in portfolios that are beneath their academic qualifications to the extent that they're being underpaid?
Okay, a lot of it is dependent on our expanding the economic base, generating more jobs. And we believe once we generate those jobs, many of them are going to be high paying jobs. And therefore, this case of underemployment will be rectified because you will now have jobs that are paying and available. And so it is our intention to widen the base of the economy. We've already mentioned what we intend to do in agriculture. There's a lot of scope in information technology for us to do the things we want to do. And we believe those jobs are going to pay much higher salaries. And therefore, the young people coming out of the university, etc., shouldn't have to worry about that.
Okay. I think I see Mr. Gordon Mosley.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Norton and team. Mr. Norton, the Chevron Oil Company recently got clearance to buy out the Hess shares on the Stabro block. That's the deal with that deal with Exxon and Sinuk. Chevron also has a huge stake in the Venezuelan oil operations. And overnight, we learned that the US government has sort of lifted some sanctions on Chevron operating there. With that taking place, Chevron's close relations with Caracas, is there a concern?
Close relations with whom?
With Caracas, Venezuela.
Okay, with Caracas.
And its operations there. Yeah, would you have a concern with the stake Exxon now has in the Guyana oil market?
Exxon or Chevron? Exxon
no,
or
Chevron, sorry.
Okay.
Chevron.
Okay.
Do you have a concern about the stake they now have with that deal?
Okay. One has to approach these things in a very pragmatic way. We do not fool ourselves that any state like us and will do the things because they like us. All states pursue their interests. The United States is no different. It has its interests. The companies will pursue their interests. Exxon Mobil has its interests. Chevron has its interests. It is our task to look at the dynamics of the situation and carve out our approach that ensures we benefit and move forward. I do not believe we can determine what the United States does in terms of Chevron and Exxon. What we can do is have a command of what we own and use our intellectual and other capacities to carve out a niche to ensure the people of Guyana benefit and that we don't become a kind of a slave society. And so, to me, it is looking at the variables, analyzing it, and developing your strategy to achieve your objective. Venezuela has its interests. We have our interests. We have kept the Guyana-Venezuela territorial controversy in the front burner, on the front burner. We have it before the ICJ. We intend to develop a proper diplomatic strategy to deal with Venezuela. And so we believe from a combination of proper diplomatic strategy, a plan, and a competent foreign service to implement it, we can keep Venezuela at bay while still ensuring we benefit from the oil and gas sector.
Still in the matter of foreign relations, sir, I noted a pamphlet going around online that a leadership team from your party will be heading to the U.S. To meet and engage with members of the Guyanese diaspora there. What exactly will be your message to those Guyanese there as you continue on with this campaign? And my other question with regards to China, many in the business community locally have been expressing concern, especially small businesses and those neighborhood shops, about the growth in Chinese businesses in the communities. Is that something you would look at engaging with the Chinese embassy with? I've noted that many times the PLC has functions, you always hear representatives from the Chinese embassy. So how would you engage the Chinese with concerns from within the communities you're hoping to govern?
Let me start with my message in the US. The message in the US will be twofold. In the first instance, the same message we're carrying in Guyana, that of putting people first, that of ensuring the resources from oil and gas meet the people of Guyana, both at home and abroad. That message will still be carried. The other message we'll carry is that this government is very corrupt. They are linked to the underworld. There are a lot of money laundering activities that they are involved in. And our aim is to restore honesty to government and ensure that the people of Ghana benefit from our national patrimony and from whatever resources we have. And so we want to make it very, very clear that we intend to run a government that is honest, that puts the resources into the hands of the people and operate based on good governance practices. That is the first message. The second message is to tell Guyanese in the diaspora that there's a place for you in Guyana. And it doesn't have to be physical. With the advancement of technology, one can have consultancies and other forms of help from Guyanese in the diaspora that will redound to the benefit of the Guyanese society, especially its economy. And so it is our view that we will take that message to them. We will also say to them that you have a stake in this issue here, and therefore we urge you to urge your family, friends at home to vote for the APNU because it is the only political party with a clear vision and policy. I will make it very clear to them that if you observe, every political party is seeking to rehash what we say and come up with it as if it is a new project, when in fact it isn't. In fact, I understand that the president is frantically trying to find a response to our position that we will look after those with kidney problems and ensure that they have access to the services they need. And so we will make it very clear to them in the diaspora that all and sundry at home are being responsive to our concerns and to our policies, and therefore it stands to reason that we seem to have the best vision and policies to move Guyana forward.
The Chinese.
Oh, sorry, the Chinese. Now, you are well aware that Guyana was in the forefront of ensuring China was recognized in the world. And therefore, we have always had a good relationship with China. But we believe that Guyanese must pursue our interests. I believe we can engage Chinese authorities to make it very, very clear that they have to operate within the confines of the law they have to pay their taxes, etc. We will seek to remove any, what should I call it, any advantage they will have over Guyanese in business. We also believe that we need to, in some regard, protect small businesses, and we will take the action to protect small businesses. We do not believe that it is in Guyana's interest to allow a complete domination of our. I didn't hear that. Oh, we do not believe we should encourage a domination of Chinese businesses, especially in the commercial sector where Guyanese thrived for years and we still have expertise. We believe some of what is happening is as a result of poor government policies. It is the poor government policies of the PPP government that caused a lot of Guyanese to run out of business and to rent their places to Chinese. We will rectify that, and we believe in the final analysis, we will strike a balance where we don't have to get rid of the Chinese, but the Guyanese here have first preference and a right to be involved in business, and they should not be they should not be disadvantaged by foreigners. While we believe Guyana is for Guyanese, we are well aware that we live in an interconnected, interdependent world, and that China plays a role in this world. We know that they are a significant actor. We will be responsive to their concerns in the international arena, but we will pursue diligently this approach which says that the people of Guyana must benefit and benefit first.
But how do you do that, Gordon? Here again, how do you do that, taking into account major investments that China has been making over the years? And if you get into government, they will look to make those investments still. So how do you remove that advantage with them being so firmly established?
Now, first of all, in terms of investment, we intend to improve the public procurement system. And we believe once the public procurement system is working in a proper way, then you might not have the preponderance you're seeing here. This government has the tendency or the proclivity to do things to suit themselves. Our intention is to do things to suit the people of Guyana. And once a functioning procurement commission is in place, then it follows kind of automatically that there will be a much better distribution of the contracts, etc., in the society. Additionally, we still believe that the laws are lax. And to that extent, not only Chinese, but others, including some corrupt ones in the Guyanese society, get an advantage. We believe restoring Guyana to the rule of law and ensuring that commercial and other laws are structured in a way to create a level playing field and ensure that Guyanese can act and benefit will do the job.
Thank you.
Follow, please.
If I could add,
One moment, Mr.
if I can
Chabot.
add to that, just in addition to all that Mr. Norton says, one of the things that we need to also focus on when it comes to Guyanese businesses is not just providing protection, but providing also incentives through our policies. And we have laid out before at previous press conferences policy measures that are directly aimed at growing Guyanese businesses. Some of those things we spoke about, having a development bank. We have to realize that Guyanese businesses, micro, small, and medium-scale businesses were left at a disadvantage, and persons were not able to grow their business to be on that competitive level as a lot of the Chinese businesses. What we intend to do is to provide that structural support to our policy measures to make sure that those businesses are now supported and protected through our policy measures so that they will be able to raise the level of competitiveness on that market.
Thank you. Mr. Chabot?
Yes, my follow-up was to Mr. Norton and Ms. Finance, based on what you both said. How do you seek to address the issue of the Chinese businesses when apparently it, for all intents and purposes, boils down to a competitive price? And in that regard, most of the Chinese businesses are selling their items much cheaper than their local counterparts.
All I would say to you is that I don't know that that is true. one of the things I did recently is I purchased something in a shop in Plaisance, and then I went down the line top and check it, and there's a false view that the Chinese have better prices.
Correct.
I think it is more perception than reality. Um, I buy in Guyanese businesses, and I have found that the prices are competitive, but what has been created is a perception that the Chinese own are cheaper. Also, I believe we need to educate the Guyanese people on the importance of ensuring money circulates in Guyana. And I'm not being ethnocentric or anything, but I believe that one needs to develop the consciousness so that Guyanese understand that they should support local businesses. I am not anti-Chinese, but if you ask anybody, I go to Guyanese businesses, support them, because I believe that there is something called circulatory capital, the capital that circulates in your communities. And since a lot of the Guyanese businesses tend to have capital circulating in the area, I believe we also need to say to Guyanese not to be anti-Chinese, but to be supportive of Guyana's businesses.
Thank you.
Mr. Norton, I don't know if I missed it, but I know that a few days ago, the Office of the President sent a letter to you with regards to the appointment of the acting Chief Justice to serve as the acting Chancellor while the acting Chancellor is off. Have you responded to that letter?
No,
and
no,
maybe back you have not.
no, I haven't. Let me make a few things very clear. As I understand it, the the acting Chancellor is proceeding on leave. I don't remember if it's 2 months or 3 months. That's the first thing. One would have thought that if the government was going to operate in a fair way, they would have taken one of the senior judges to become the acting Chief Justice, because they say they will make the present acting Chief Justice the acting Chancellor, and then you will promote someone. They recommend to me one of the junior judges who the general view is has links to the People's Progressive Party and will not necessarily operate based on the rule of law. But there are other judges who are senior to him, and no consideration was given to them. Because that it does not demand agreement like the substantive appointment, it demands meaningful consultation. Now, Irfan Ali has not shown the ability to consult, much less meaningfully. And so I thought it would be a waste of time. And if I became involved in it, it would have come over as if I allow meaningful consultation when I know meaningful consultation wouldn't occur. And so I thought from a poor strategic standpoint, I should not engage on it at this time. May I also hurtle to point out that one would have thought that with elections under a month away, he would not have gone in that direction. However, we expect to be in government, and those are issues we can deal with.
What for you constitutes meaningful consultation, Mr. Norton?
Just what the law says.
No, but in practical terms, what does it mean?
You would have heard a judge rule, and it suggested that, well, the Constitution itself says there should be an exchange, and then there should be a written up thing on the exchange, and then the decision. Nothing of that sort happens. If you look at what the government does, is that they merely send information to you. Let me go to the Teachers Service Commission. I responded pointing out that the woman Monkhouse, who I knew in London from a youth, was a PPP activist, and therefore she should not have been on that commission. Mrs. Ramson, again, should not have been on the commission because they are all integrally involved in partisan politics. No consideration is given to that. what that suggests to me is that they have no interest in creating independent commissions. And so I found it a waste of time to speak to a man who came with no intention of consulting. And I know full well, you can't convince him. He is bent on his in his dictatorial and authoritarian ways, and therefore for him it's not about developing a democratic system, it's about going through the facade of saying you consulted so that you can make the decisions you want. Go ahead and make them. The people will determine on the 1st of September.
Thank you.
Hans Martin, good morning. Jeremy Taylor here, Regional Media. I have a couple of questions, but I want to start off firstly with the cash grant initiative. Can you go into a little bit more details surrounding this? How frequent, quote unquote, if the APNU takes over the administration? And also, when we talk about benefiting, is the cash grant a suitable option, taking into account that you're only basically benefiting those who are receiving it for a month? Specifically, so if you give them $100,000, $200,000 in August, that's technically going to benefit them in August. But going forward, is there any developmental plans, let's say, for example, giving the young people within the country an initiative where you deposit $100,000 for them in the bank, and it's going to benefit them in the long run by probably incurring, sorry, I'm trying to get the correct word. It is going to grow on the account for them. And my second question here has to do specifically with investment. As you go and discuss your plans with the diaspora, what's your ideas initiative for investment opportunities for those who are living in the diaspora to return to the country and develop, taking into account as well the fact that crime and violence is something that is to an extent going to dissuade a lot of people from coming into and entering the country to invest?
Okay, first of all, we don't describe it as cash grants. We see it as cash transfers. When you talk about a grant, as if somebody is giving you something. What we are doing here is that the persons who will be the stewards of the budget, we are going to transfer resources from the people's budget to the people. And so I don't see it as a grant. As it relates to frequency, we have said it is going to be predictable. We have always said when we're in there and we look at it, we will determine the frequency of it. But what we have established beyond doubt is that we want it to be predictable. Excuse me. You mentioned suitable options, and one of them you put in it is putting the money in the bank to grow. There is an economic assumption there, but I think is not true at this stage. That assumption is that the interest rate in the bank will allow it to grow. As a Guyanese who have been banking, I would think that that is not an option at this stage, because I do not see anyone in the society, especially the lower level, who are arguing that they are benefiting from significant interest on a bank account. So I think that option is questionable. In fact, I believe if we can get the Guyanese, give them the funds, train them in financial literacy, train them in small business development, link them to our programs, and ensure that they can become involved in businesses and utilize the money in certain ways, then it will be to our advantage. So that is an option. The diaspora. I do believe we can create the conditions for people in the diaspora to invest. But there are certain things that need to be done before. A lot of the people in the diaspora are concerned about the absence of a proper healthcare system in Guyana. Our intention is to focus on the healthcare system and ensure it is improved so that people don't worry about coming because of the situation in the health. Look, we just built as 2 hospitals, but the Laba Georgetown Hospital isn't working. The government's approach to healthcare is really and truly a manifestation of their incompetence, their inability to do what is right for the Guyanese. What they do is they do projects that will put money into their pockets, their family, their friends, and the favorites. We have to change that and develop a proper system, both in education and health, because people who want to come, particularly the middle-aged one, would want their children in proper schools. So we have to address this in a comprehensive way. As it relates to crime and violence, I will depend on David Granger's formula. Anyone who is rational will accept that between 2015 and 2020, David Granger worked assiduously and brought down the crime. And Guyana not only became a safe place, it became a place where there was hope. Then comes the PPP, put back the same criminals at the top of the police system and expect a different result. What has resulted? What has resulted is a compromised police force. The law isn't implemented, and so the crime increases. We're saying to you, we have the capacity to solve the problems in crime, improve safety in Guyana, and create conditions propitious to Guyanese in the diaspora feeling willing and comfortable to come home.
Thank you.
I want to add a little bit when it comes to the $100,000 cash grant and that question. And persons need to also recognize that we are not just talking about $100,000 cash transfer, but we also put in policies in place that will directly impact persons on a monthly basis. We are talking about, as outlined in the statement read by Mr. Norton, 35% increase in wages and salaries. We're talking about raising the income tax threshold to $400,000. All of these things in combination will be seen persons having a real benefit on a monthly basis. And it's not just a one-off situation we're looking at. We're also looking at making sure that every child benefits by $120,000 per year, payable every 6 months, $60,000 per child. So it is not just a single item we're looking at, but we're looking at real policy measures that would make sure that there's more disposable income in the pockets of Guyanese. We're making sure that the working class of Guyana is removed from the bracket of paying income tax. And these are real benefits that was not just going to happen once per year, but these things will be realized every month moving forward when we take office.
Also, we should add that when we remove the discrimination from the society, all Guyanese will benefit. If you read the audited report of the COVID cash transfer, you will recognize that in that report, it is stated that there was a lot of discrimination and many people left with a pink slip until now, they probably turn white again. So once we remove the discrimination from the system and we allow every Guyanese to be treated equally, then I think it will be a better situation in our country.
Thank you. Miss Tammy Garnett. Miss Garnett?
Hi, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we're hearing you.
No, there's no pulse, excuse me. I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
My question is pertaining to the carbon credit element that Ms. Fernandez had mentioned previously. She had, over the last weekend at the rally in Bartica, she had mentioned that the Apnu party, if put into government, will be increasing the Guyana carbon credit sales in percentage to Indigenous communities to 50%, and will ensure that the monies are transferred directly to the Indigenous citizens. Yesterday, Vice President Barjafio essentially bashed the party for saying that you guys are shameless for leaning on the LCDS and the benefits of the LCDS, given that the party never supported the LCDS, and even during your term in office, you shouted for and replaced it with the Green State Development Strategy. Can you respond to your feelings on what was said.
Let me, I,
I
I,
have another question.
I will let Jarrett to speak and then I will speak. Go ahead, Jarrett.
The first thing I want to say is that we don't deal with feelings; we deal with facts. When you're putting policies together, it's not about your personal feelings towards these things, but it's about a fact. The fact is that right about now we're having carbon credits money being paid when it comes to preserving the forest that is primarily indigenous that are primarily on indigenous lands, and we're having only 15% of those sums actually being given to indigenous communities. What we are saying is that that is not enough. That is not enough because the indigenous communities are the ones, indigenous people are the people that are on the front line when it comes to protecting our forests. So how is it even possible for us to believe that 15% distributed throughout all indigenous communities are enough? We're saying we're going to give 50% to those communities and not just give it to the communities. We're going to make sure that it's given to the citizens. As outlined today, also, we're speaking about increasing the stipends that are given to shows and so forth, because these leaders are leaders within indigenous communities that right now it is just as though it is a name basis, and they're not given the support and the respect that they deserve. When it comes to Mr. Jagdeo, I think the first thing I would like to say is that I believe he should be honest about the conceptualization of the LCDS in the first place and where that came from. I love Mr. Norton to continue in this regard.
You know, the problem with Jack Dale is that he suffers from a brain deficit and it is compounded with dementia, so that he places everything as if they started under the PPP. It is the PNC that put in the constitution this whole question of the environment. Long before Jack Doe arrived on the scene, we gave to the Commonwealth a proposal for what is now Iwakrama. And the purpose of that was to study the pristine forest with the aim of expanding the results to understand the forest generally and to pursue conservation of the environment. Now, I can say to you, because I was involved, we negotiated the Biodiversity Convention, and I was part of that negotiation. And there are many elements in the Biodiversity Convention that should have been addressed if they were serious. When I saw they were at a conference with biodiversity, I thought, Irfanal is a complete joke. One of the main things in the Biodiversity Convention is for countries of origin of biodiversity to benefit from its biodiversity. There is not one thing that was done by this government to move in the direction of biodiversity. Now, I said all of these things to say to you, there is and was evolving a holistic approach to the environment. The PPP then comes with the low carbon development strategy, which was limited to transactions based on forests. Now, that is limited. For you to say we don't support the LCDS, it is true, because we believe there is need for a more comprehensive approach to the environment, which extends past the LCDS. And that is why David Granger had the Green State paper that sought to deal with the entire environment. It must be the joke of the century that Barrett Jagdeo had called himself the champion of the earth, knowing full well that Ghana part of the earth is being overtaken by the sea. But he continued to focus on development on the low-lying coast rather than shifting it to the highlands. That is a level of idiocy that transcends the normal. And so I'm saying to you, we can engage and look at the positive elements of the LCDS, which we have done, but we have also recognized that it is limited and it lacks the comprehensive approach to ensure that Guyana manages its environment in a sustainable way, and protect future generations. So I see no contradiction between the two. What I do see is the limited capacity of the People's Progressive Party to develop comprehensive programs and policies, and so they go with this piecemeal thing, inclusive of the LCDS. I come now to the distribution. The people who protect our environment and conserve it for years are the indigenous peoples. And I'm saying to you that they have a right to benefit in a direct way, just like all of us believe that all Guyanese have a right to benefit in a direct way from oil and gas. And so there is no contradiction. We will pursue giving more to the indigenous people on the question of the carbon credits. Now, what you're saying here is, look, yes, it's 100%. If these people did what they did, they live in the environment, then nothing is wrong with them having 50%. And the rest goes to the wider society. But if the PPP does that, it reduces thief and money. That is the problem. They have to give that little percentage so that they can have space for the kleptocratic tendencies. We want to move away from that and to ensure, like we said, we return Guyana to an honest society.
Thank you. I believe we have room for about 2 questions.
Hi.
Go ahead.
My next question is about another element that Ms. Fernandez has spoken about, local content for the mining sector. She had mentioned that the party is proposing local content for the mining sector. Can you say what reassurances you're giving citizens about guaranteeing them that this will go forward, given the party's track record in not providing local content legislation for the oil and gas sector?
Could I start before Ms. Finance? I don't know where you get your information from, but they seem antithetical to truth. As far as I'm aware, when we were in government, we had prepared local content legislation. We never got it to the parliament because we left government in August 2020. And so I believe that it is not true to suggest that we didn't do anything on local content. In fact, the PPP take elements and butchered some. That's the reality. If you still want to.
I want to, that is completely true what Mr. Norton has said. And when we're talking about local content, if you are to look even now at the local content legislation that was tabled by the People's Progressive Party in the parliament, we did ask them to change things in that policy, but they did not. And what you're seeing now is that even now they have to come back to the National Assembly to correct some of the very things that we were asking them to amend. But that is the way in which they do things. They met a paper, like Mr. Norton said, they butchered it. And as it is presented now, Guyanese are not really benefiting because there's so many loopholes in that. When it comes to mining, I believe that the local content is necessary for mining as well. Coming from a mining community myself, I know the benefits. And as we said before, the same way in which we present local content policies for oil and gas, in the same breath and in the same vein we'll present for mining, so that we're seeing both locals and the business investors benefiting from that. It's a win-win situation that we're looking for, where everybody can gain and successfully move on in their business ventures.
May I also add that the government's approach to local content is limited, and we will have to expand it. There's little or no sense saying it's local content, and you have a Guyanese business, you're just local content by name.
Paper.
On paper. And then you have to buy for this country, and everything you have to purchase will come from outside. What makes it local content? Just ownership. Local content has to transcend ownership to also feed back into our production systems so that the society is producing in a way to ensure that there is real local content.
Thank you. I can take one last question. All right. With there being no other questions, I want to thank our media personnel for joining today's press conference, and of course, our viewing audience on all our social media platforms. Do have a wonderful weekend.